myself.
Oh, you can do it.
Oh,
It's
for
okay,
it.
it's okay.
So my name is Jessica Carfagnini, and I'm a local naturopathic doctor. I want to thank Rick for inviting me to come do this health info session with you. So just so you know, I really like it when people ask questions throughout. So don't be shy. If you have a question, just get my attention and we'll cover it right away. Yes?
Do you need ozone therapy?
Ozone therapy? No. Good question, though. But there's so much out there, and there's so much to learn about. Naturopathic medicine, just to give you a nutshell version, we have a lot of modalities at our disposal. We don't do everything, but we are trained for 4 years in naturopathic medical school, and that's after our undergraduate degree, which is 3 or 4 years, depending on the program. So we study physiology, anatomy, microbiology, pathology, all of the basic sciences, understanding how the human body works. Come on in. And
Whoa, you made it.
we learn how to diagnose and treat according to Western medicine, but also using Chinese medicine. So the ways that we treat are different from medical doctors. So the ways that I will treat will include diet, so talking about foods that help you, foods that harm you, looking at lifestyle, reducing stress, what does your sleep look like, is it really optimal sleep, that kind of thing. Exercise, of course, is very important. And then we also use herbal medicine, plants. We do clinical nutrition, so looking at where vitamin deficiencies might exist. And some people need more of a certain vitamin than others, right? We're often given the impression that everyone has a certain set amount, but that's not true. We're all unique individuals. And so that's one of the beautiful things about naturopathic medicine, is that you get individualized care. I mean, we are doctors who have more time to spend. We are outside of the OHIP system, which is not good because it means our care is not accessible to everyone, but it's good in the sense that I spend an hour and a half with my patient on the first visit. So I really get to know my patients and what their lives look like and how they can make changes to optimize their health. So before we jump into talking about the immune system, does anyone have any questions just about naturopathic medicine in general? Bearing in mind you'll get a better idea as we go through the presentation.
How did you get involved in this, and when did you?
How did I get
graduate?
involved? Well, this is my second career. My first career was in Ottawa, supporting women who are survivors of violence. And so I was doing a lot of counseling. And I love doing counseling. I still do a lot of it in my naturopathic practice. And I was seeing a naturopathic doctor myself. And I just loved all the tools she had, that she could do acupuncture to help me out, and homeopathy. And I thought, what if I could use those tools to help people on their healing journeys? And so I made a big decision, and I, left my home and my car and my career and my community in Ottawa, and went to Toronto for 4 years to pursue my education in naturopathic medicine. And it's probably the hardest thing I've ever done. We're talking like 11 classes in one semester is full-time, so it's a ridiculous amount of information that they require us to learn. But I'm really excited that I'm now through and I have all this information and I'm able to get out there and help people with it, because that's always been important to me, just helping people on their healing journeys. So, any other questions? All right, we'll dive in. Feel free to take notes or anything you want. Okay, so germs. Can everyone see the slide okay? All right. So most of you have probably heard of Louis Pasteur. He invented the process we know as pasteurization, killing microbes so that our milk is safe and all of that. So back in the 1800s, Louis Pasteur said, hey, there's microbes. There are these tiny little things that we cannot see with the naked eye, and we can pass them to each other. And this was a really important discovery because back then, doctors didn't necessarily know that. Doctors didn't always wash their hands at the time, so
Still don't.
we do our best. So this was a really important idea, that there are germs out there. Now, at the same time, there was a man named Claude Bernard, not as famous as Louis Pasteur, but he was saying, yeah, germs, but what about the terrain? So what is the terrain? These are our bodies, right? Because as we know, not everyone gets sick when exposed to the same germs, right? You know how there's a cold that goes around or a flu that goes around, and there's those people who always catch everything, and then there's some people who just don't seem to ever get sick. So why is that, right? Germ theory didn't really explain that. Of course we know germs are real, but it's just not the whole picture. So the terrain, very important. So germ theory strategies. We know about those. Washing your hands, making sure there's no germs on them. You're not catching germs from door handles and then putting your hands in your mouth. We know about this. We know about the sleeve sneeze to protect others as well. And we know about the yearly flu vaccine. But what are you to do? Enclose yourself in a bubble? That would be the only way to truly protect yourself from germs, right? I had to find a picture on the internet. Yes.
Don't you think it's a little backwards then when we go to the washroom and they say wash your hands before you go to the washroom? You've just been checking the oil, turning the doorknob, driving your car, picking your nose. So you should wash your hands before
Before
not
and
after
after.
you go to the bathroom.
Before and after
Yeah,
would
well,
be
people
ideal.
aren't taught the first one.
Yeah, you're right. Now, if you take a safe food handling course, I remember taking one back in high school when I was working at Little Caesars Pizza. If you're handling food, they will tell you, wash your hands before you go to the washroom, after you go to the washroom, all the time, wash your hands.
Even wash the taps and don't touch the handles of the toilet
Yeah,
or
don't touch
the
the handles
door.
of the door. And so, you know, you can take this to an extreme, right? And some people really do get very anxious about this kind of thing. So don't stop washing your hands. That's not what I'm saying. Hand washing is important. But there's more to it, and that's the terrain. So that's where we're going with this talk. Trudy.
And I learned when I was a lab tech that in 20 minutes, your normal flora is returning. So your hand wash is good for 20 minutes.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Because we all have bacteria all over our bodies and inside of our bodies all the time. And this is a good thing. We are meant to live symbiotically with this bacteria. And a lot of it protects us, right? There's a little bit of a community going on at all times. So if you have healthy bacteria on your body and in your body, you're more likely to be able to fight off the bacteria that would possibly make you sick. Okay, so these are all strategies that really go with the germ theory. So we're going to talk a bit about terrain.
Come on in.
Come on in.
Sorry,
No worries.
there was a different room number posted on your.
Yeah, some of the posters had a different room number.
Yeah, I remember it was set 214 on your poster and it hasn't been
Said,
seen.
yeah.
I phoned him, I said, hey, I've been sending out all those invites for the email.
So let's hope everyone finds us tonight.
Yes.
And I also got some calls at the clinic today, and some people said they're going to be late, so we'll just be friendly and invite them in.
There you go.
Okay, so back to the terrain. The terrain is your immune system. So it's your skin, it's your mucous membranes, it's sneezing. Every time you sneeze, that's your body's way of trying to expel things out. So it's pretty effective. Tears and sweat. There are lysozymes in your tears and your sweat that kill bacteria by destroying their cell walls. And interestingly enough, this is the mechanism of action of a certain class of antibiotics. They destroy the cell walls of the bacteria. So we have these natural antibiotic qualities in our own immune system. The stomach has hydrochloric acid, very acidic. So if you swallow something that's got, maybe a little bit of salmonella growing on it, usually your stomach acid can kill off a little bit. It's when there's too much that you get sick. So that's why our stomachs are acidic, because we have to take in food, and food has all sorts of wonderful, mysterious things on it. So, last year I had the opportunity to go study homeopathy in India with some of my naturopathic colleagues. And one of our strategies for staying healthy while we were there, because we thought, you know, we're in Mumbai and we're eating all sorts of exciting foods and who knows what's out there. And, you know, we had a busy trip. We were trying to be tourists and be students at the same time. So we thought, we don't want to get sick. So one of the things that my friends and I did was we took herbs that are known as bitters. And these particular herbs are very bitter, as you might guess, but they stimulate stomach acid and really get things going. So we would take our bitter herbs before every meal just to make sure our stomach acid was nice and robust and would kill anything bad that was in the food.
Did you eat?
Never got sick, by the
Oh,
way.
good.
It worked.
Yeah, well, there were other things I did too. We'll get to that.
What are a couple examples of those herbs?
So gentian is a big one.
What?
What is it?
It's called gentian.
What
What's that?
Yeah, it's a very bitter herb that is used for stimulating not only stomach acid, but just digestion in general. But there are a lot of different bitters out there, and it'll always depend on the case which ones I decide to prescribe. Yes?
Would it replace enzymes when you said digestion?
Bitters don't replace enzymes, no.
Okay.
But they can stimulate digestion, so they might stimulate the production of enzymes.
Okay.
The thing about a lot of herbal medicine is more and more science is telling us why those herbs work, but sometimes science doesn't know. So some of these herbs have been used since, you know, since humans were on the earth, right? We've always eaten plants for medicinal reasons. So we don't always know why they work. Some of them are used traditionally. So. Okay, so another part of the immune system is, of course, blood and lymph, which carries immune cells throughout the body. And all of these immune cells have highly complex and very interesting ways of communicating, which I won't bore you with the details because that's a whole immunology course and you don't want to be subjected to that tonight. Okay, so here's just a diagram showing you parts of the immune system, right? You see like adenoids, tonsils, you see the lymph system there. Obviously you don't see all of the blood, but it just gives you an idea, right? You see the digestive system as well. You've got the spleen, Peyer's patches. So the immune system is, well, skin, like I said, is part of the immune system, tears, sweat, sneezing, mucous membranes, and then all of this blood and lymph. So really, we're talking about all over our bodies, all inside of our bodies. So the immune system is very comprehensive, so to speak. These are some of the amazing cells that make up our immune system. So antigens, you see at the top there, those are like little flags that tell the immune system what kind of molecule this is. These are ways that the cells interact. So what happens is, you know, something comes in, and a microbe, and one of the cells will grab it and engulf it. And then it'll display a little flag and say, hey, I'm infected, come check me out. And then the other immune cells can come along and educate themselves about what kind of infection is happening. And then they can start mounting an immune response. So it's kind of hard to talk about the immune system without going into war analogies. Like, it really does make you think of a battle. So the B cells activate, and they crank out plasma cells, which then create antibodies. I'm sure many of us have heard about antibodies. So there are many different kinds of antibodies. And when we talk about allergies, for example, who here, you know, is allergic to cats or dogs or dust mites or, you know, trees or pollen? So all of those ones are like IgE reactions. So Ig is an immunoglobulin, that's a type of antibody. So those are circulating throughout our blood, part of the immune system. Now there's also IgG antibodies, and they cause other types of reactions. So who here has heard of food sensitivities? Yeah, so this is a different kind of allergic reaction. This is IgG antibodies. So those reactions can be anything like gas, bloating, fatigue, headaches, joint pain, all sorts of different reactions, but not your typical, you know, itchy eyes, sniffly nose, sneezing. That's more of an IgE reaction. Okay, so that's enough about the immune system. This is not an immunology course. Okay, so how do you how do you bolster your immune system? How do you bolster the terrain? So there are some dietary approaches, one of which is to identify food sensitivities and eliminate those foods that, so that you reduce systemic inflammation and then you improve your immune health. So for example, if I had a sensitivity to gluten and I was ignoring that and I was eating gluten all the time, I'd probably feel pretty tired, run down, bags under my eyes, and I might even have joint pain, might have some stomach pain, and I'd be thinking, oh, you know, what's wrong with me? I just don't feel great. But that means there's inflammation throughout my body because my immune system thinks that gluten, the gluten molecule from bread and pasta and pastries, is the enemy. So my immune system is constantly in attack mode and attacking gluten. So because my immune system has gone overboard, it's just not in really good shape to mount a good immune response for when, you know, the common cold virus comes along. So. Does anyone have any questions about that?
Could you explain gluten a little bit?
Absolutely. Gluten is, basically it's a component of many grains. So grains that contain gluten are wheat, rye, barley, spelt, a lot of the grains that are in our foods. Especially in Canada, we have a huge wheat industry, so wheat is in tons of our foods. And so some people have an intolerance to gluten. And this is different than a wheat allergy because you can be intolerant to wheat and still eat other grains that contain gluten. But if you're gluten intolerant, you might have an extreme gluten intolerance like celiac disease. Who here has heard of celiac disease? Yeah, so that's commonly known. It's more of a range though. You've got celiac disease on this end where like you can't even eat a breadcrumb. You will get sick from a breadcrumb. And then over here, which is just like, if I eat too much gluten, I don't feel great. And then everywhere in between. So, yes.
Is there a way to test for food sensitivities other than just, well, try eliminating, see how you feel?
Yeah. Well, there's two ways that I recommend. One of them is the elimination diet. So, you know, you can do that in a more casual way, just saying, oh, hey, maybe I have a problem with gluten. I'm going to go gluten-free. Or you can come get some coaching and some support from your naturopathic doctor to do the elimination diet. It's also known as the hypoallergenic diet. And this is a specific medical diet, really, where you remove all sorts of foods that commonly cause sensitivities or allergic reactions. So the foods you would remove in the elimination diet would include gluten, sugar, coffee, and then some vegetables and fruits like bananas, tomatoes, dairy you would have to remove. So for some people, they think, oh my gosh, that's my whole diet. What do you mean? What am I going to eat, right? So luckily, the elimination diet handout includes a lot of recommendations of foods you can eat. There's a column, foods you cannot eat, foods you can eat. So and it does involve a lot of coaching, a lot of preparation. It's not an easy diet to do. Some people are really ready to do it. They're ready for that change. And other people say, no, I can never do that. So the idea with the elimination diet, just to finish up on that, is that you do this diet for about 3 weeks until all of your symptoms resolve. And it usually works. Headaches are gone, joint pain is gone, no more gas and bloating, energy's back. Some people say, I love this diet, I'm staying on it forever. And I tell them, no, you can't. You're not allowed to stay on it forever. It's actually too restrictive. Variety is the spice of life, and variety in our diet is a positive thing. So then you need to start the reintroduction phase. So now that all of those symptoms are gone and you're eating this super clean hypoallergenic diet, you start testing a food. So you're like, all right, wheat, I'm going to see if I can really eat you or if you're my enemy. So then you have wheat for breakfast, for lunch, and for dinner. And, you know, eat other foods too, but like have a piece of toast 3 times a day and then wait and see if you get that reaction. And the reaction is different for everyone. That's why I'm speaking in general terms. So for some people it might be a splitting headache. For other people it might be more gas and bloating. And so then you keep testing different foods. So if you have no reaction, fantastic, wheat's back in, right? Then you try eggs. Well, see how that goes. If you do have a reaction, you have to go back on the elimination diet, strict, until the symptoms go away. You can't just keep introducing all of them, because then you don't know what the symptoms are coming from. So it's a sort of scientific experiment. And then the other way to test for food sensitivities is there is a finger prick test. We just take a little blood sample and we send it off to a lab in Alberta called Rocky Mountain Analytical, and they test it against 96 different foods and they send a graph back. So that's a nice, quick and easy way of doing it. Does cost $250. Some people would rather make that financial investment than do the elimination diet. So it's just a matter of patient choice. So.
Would you recommend the latter if the person that you were coaching had a pre-existing diagnosed problem, say like IBS? Would IBS get in the way of the elimination diet in determining like authentic intolerances, or if it's just the IBS acting up? You know what I mean?
Well, IBS is often triggered by food intolerances.
Yeah.
So depending on where the person's at, they can absolutely do the elimination diet.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
and their
it won't
IBS
run-
symptoms might clear up.
Okay, so it won't
Yeah.
run interference and would be hard to.
It
tell.
shouldn't. The only thing that usually runs interference is people eating the foods they shouldn't.
They should
Yeah.
read labels.
Yeah, you have to become an obsessive
Oh,
label
yes.
reader if you're going
That's
to do
right.
the elimination diet, for sure. I mean, anyone can try it. One of the reasons I might hesitate to prescribe the elimination diet is if someone is very underweight or malnourished, and then I think it's potentially dangerous to have them take out more foods. So in that case, I will be judicious in helping them figure out what they can eat and what they can. And I did have a patient recently where that was the case. It just seemed like everything made her sick. But she did say, like, I've got my own cow, and I know the dairy from my own cow does not make me sick. I know I feel good on that. I can't eat the dairy from the store, but I can eat the dairy from my own cow. And I said, okay, stay with that. I don't want you to eliminate that dairy. You know that it's okay for you, but we're gonna look at eliminating gluten. And then I did a lot of coaching with her on things that she could eat, because I didn't want her to not be nourished, right? I mean, people have to eat, so.
Did you mention something about dry pain? Dry pain?
Dry pain? No, I think I said joint pain.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm not hearing properly then
Yeah.
today.
Ask me to repeat things if you're not quite getting it, for sure. Okay, so that's just a little bit about food sensitivities. And another dietary approach is eating a whole foods diet. So this is kind of like eating like our grandparents might have, right? Things that don't come in boxes, but like fresh vegetables, fresh fruits, whole grains, high quality protein. And when I say modest portions of high quality protein, the size of the palm of your hand is about the size of
Deck of cards.
what your, the deck of cards or the palm of your hand. I like saying palm of your hand because, of course, the palm of my hand would be smaller than the palm of your hand, but hey, you need a bit more protein than I do,
Yeah, but
right?
it-
So-
that can be that thick.
yeah,
I mean,
oh, as thick as a deck of cards, that's a good way of saying it.
just the size of a deck of cards, thickness and size.
Yeah. So it's very important to get protein, you just don't want to go overboard with it. And addressing indigestion and GERD or reflux. So sometimes the GERD can be telling you, or reflux can be telling you that maybe your stomach acid is not optimal. A lot of people assume that when you have reflux, it's always high stomach acid. Sometimes it's actually low stomach acid. Sounds counterintuitive, but sometimes that's the case. And oftentimes it's, we now know it can be caused by an H. pylori infection, so it's more common than we realized. And of course, not overeating, because when you overeat, you really tax your digestive system.
What can they do about that H. pylori?
H. pylori, well, medical doctors prescribe antibiotics for that.
Yeah, 4 at a time. Kills out your whole immune system, and you're worse off.
Well, we're gonna get to the slide on probiotics. I promise you that. Basically, whenever you take antibiotics, it's good to take probiotics afterwards to replenish
Oh,
the
yeah.
healthy gut bacteria.
A whole year.
All year. It's good to take breaks from probiotics too. Okay, so sugar. not so sweet to your immune system. So here's just a few blurbs from some research. They did a research study where some healthy volunteers ingested 25 teaspoons of sugar. I know it sounds like a lot, but when you're looking at like chocolate bars and pastries and Persians, there actually is a lot of sugar in that stuff. It caused a transient decrease in the capacities of their neutrophils to engulf bacteria. So neutrophils, if you remember that slide on the immune system there, they're some of those cells that are circulating, and that's their job, engulf the bacteria, protect you. They weren't able to do that when there was lots of sugar in the system. And so another study, again, showed that ingesting a lot of sugar decreased cell-mediated immunity. And also, sugar it's empty calories. So you're not getting any nutritional value from sugar. You're just getting, well, a sugar rush, right? So you get those calories. Your body has to work to burn those calories and use them up. But you're not doing your body the favor of putting in vitamins and minerals and fiber at the same time. So, I mean, yes, glucose, of course, a lot of what we eat gets broken down into glucose, and that's fine. But if we can eat things like fruits, vegetables, it's also giving us a lot of vitamins and minerals and fiber and stuff that our body needs. So, yes, at the back.
Yeah, I was just actually wondering, I was told the more sugar that you eat, like empty sugar that you eat, the more your body craves it. So is that true? That the more you eat,
Being
the more
addicted
your
to
body
sugar?
craves it? Yeah.
You betcha. Yeah. I'm just coming off of serious sugar addiction myself. I go on and off of sugar, and every time I try to give it up again, I just have those nights where I'm like, oh, I really want some sugar. But being able to wean off of sugar and then stay away from it, then you don't crave it as much. So, I mean, try it out sometime. And if you are weaning off of sugar, there are gentle ways to do this, reducing your sugar intake gradually, and then switching over to just having a little bit of honey or maple syrup is a nice gentle way to let yourself down. But even honey and maple syrup, it still is sugar. It's not as bad because it's not as refined. Yeah, it's a bit better because it's natural, but still is sugar.
What about stevia?
Stevia is actually a plant. So we had a stevia plant at the Naturopathic College. We had a very amazing botanical garden there. And you would take a tiny leaf of this plant and bite on it, and you'd get the biggest sweet taste in your mouth. So stevia is an amazing sweetener, and it's totally safe. It doesn't spike your blood sugar. It's not empty calories. It's not really any calories. It's just
I don't like
it's a
the
very
taste.
sweet taste. Except you don't like it, is that what you said?
I don't like the taste.
It's an acquired taste, yeah. I mean, some people
I'd
don't like
rather do without
stevia.
anything, but sucralose,
Yeah.
fructose.
I did
And all
stevia in
that stuff is
my
worse.
tea for a while, and then I also lost the taste for it. So, but if you're trying to wean yourself off of sugar, stevia is a good option. Just beware when you go to the health food store to look for stevia. There are some companies that now produce little packets that they kind of look like a Sweet and Low, and they'll have stevia in them, but they also have some other fake sweetener chemical substance in them. So if you're gonna buy stevia,
Yep.
buy just plain stevia. It's usually the liquid in the glass dropper bottles that is
that's
pure
what I got.
stevia. Kelly's Nutrition Center has it. A lot of the other health food stores in town will too. So, and then just a point about dairy there at the bottom. Eating a lot of cow dairy can increase phlegm. So a lot of people with chronic sinus congestion or phlegmy coughs, that sort of thing, giving up dairy can really reduce phlegm production in the body. Okay, so on to some immune boosting foods. Garlic is one of my favorites. Yes,
Ask about sugar.
yeah.
So the research that you've listed, that's refined sugar. That's not sugar from any other source, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. It's because sugar in fruit is fine.
right.
Unless we're talking about different things, right?
Yeah.
If we're talking about managing diabetes
Mhm.
and regulating blood sugar, then you have to be careful with certain fruits as well.
Right.
Yeah.
And read the labels
Yeah.
whenever you buy any cereal or anything.
What was that, Kathy?
I was wondering if, so there would be no negative effect then on the immune system?
With fruits?
With, I don't know, with fruits and vegetables.
Um,
Those kinds of carbohydrates.
Usually not. It just depends, because if someone has issues with hypoglycemia, then it can. So if you have a very sensitive blood sugar level, it can, but as a rule, in general, fruit is fine. Yeah, I mean, that's why we're taught to like eat oranges and stuff. Yes.
Sorry, I just had a question about honey. I was told it's good to try like organic honey, but at the same time, when they pasteurize or filter it or whatever, it gets rid of a lot of the stuff that can be in it, diseases. So what is a good way, what's a good kind of honey to buy that's like organic but isn't dangerous to you?
Raw unpasteurized honey is not really that dangerous. I mean, if you might want to be careful if you have HIV or if you're immunocompromised in any way, you might want to be careful and go for pasteurized honey instead. But for anyone else whose immune systems are relatively healthy, raw unpasteurized honey is great because it has bacteria in it that are actually helpful.
Eat propolis is in
Yeah.
honey.
So, okay, so any other questions about sugar or honey?
The
Yes,
difference
Bob.
between the refined sugar and the sugar you get in fruit, why is there a difference?
Fructose.
It's just the way your body absorbs it. Yeah. And because fruit, you've got vitamins in there, you've got fiber, you have all sorts of good stuff. I mean, fruit can act as a therapeutic food, it can act as medicine. So you're getting other stuff in there. Okay, so garlic. One of the things I do when I feel like I'm getting a cold is I start eating raw garlic. You don't want to be around me when.
I know.
Unless you eat it too.
Yeah, exactly. And hey, if you're hanging around me, maybe you're going to catch the cold next, so we might as well all eat garlic. So there's all sorts of creative ways you can get that in. I like to make guacamole, right? Because that's something I put raw garlic in anyway with avocados, and I just put an extra dose of garlic in and have some nice guacamole. So there's a recommendation in one of my nutrition books that says, take a clove of garlic, peel it, cut it in half, and hold it inside your mouth for 15 minutes, and then swoosh it around to the other side, hold it there for 15 minutes.
Just chew
Not
it.
for the weak of heart. Yeah, chew it if
Chew
you're
it
really
and then
brave.
hold it. Then you get the real,
If you can handle that, I
oh,
don't
you
know.
have to. Mind over matter.
It can really burn the tissues though, so if you feel a burning sensation,
Yeah,
switch
well.
it around. Don't tough it out, because garlic can burn the delicate mucous membranes of your mouth. Yeah.
Does cooking the garlic significantly reduce, like obviously it'll still.
Has to be raw.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, you can still get some good benefits from the garlic when it's cooked, but not as much. So, raw is better, yes.
One of the traditional things for flu or influenza of any sort was to slice raw garlic on some bread and eat as a sandwich.
There you go. A lot of these traditional practices, they knew what they were doing.
Honey and garlic.
Honey too.
Yeah. Yeah, in fact, a natural cough syrup that you can make is you take an onion and you slice it in half and, make like a ring, right, of onions, and that's about 1 inch thick, and you put it in a bowl and put some raw unpasteurized honey over top of it, let it sit in the fridge overnight, and then it's all goopy and slimy in the morning, and it's very soothing on the throat.
Best cough medicine.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so another great food is soups and stews with root vegetables.
Yeah.
This is especially great in the winter. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about change of season soup, which involves boiling up some Chinese herbs. So you put those into your soup that you're already making with root vegetables and chicken, and it's a great way to just boost your immune system. And then, of course, bioflavonoid-rich foods. Cabbage, parsley, carrots, broccoli, turnips, all of that good stuff. Now, in Chinese medicine, too, there's a lot of talk about what's warming, what's cooling. So warming foods are good if you are feeling chilled, especially, in end of October, early November, when things start to get dark and cold and you're just not used to it yet. Eating some warming foods can be great. Garlic, onion, ginger, cayenne, cinnamon. Although, a word of warning, if you are having hot flashes because of menopause or any other reason, don't go for those warming foods. They will make your hot flashes worse. So, use some of the other strategies. Yes?
Does it have to be the ginger root, or is the ginger powder okay?
Ginger powder's okay, but it's not as good. If you can get fresh ginger root, which usually you can get in any of the grocery stores around here, and you just chop it up and you can simmer it in a pot of, like, bring a pot of water to a boil, and then throw your sliced ginger root in there, throw your garlic in there too, and some lemon juice, pinch of cayenne. That is the tea that I always make for myself when I feel like I'm getting sick. And so, yeah, you just simmer it for about 20 minutes on low after bringing it to a boil. And then you drink the tea and fortify yourself.
Curcumin, it's the same family as ginger, right? Curcumin?
Similar, yeah. Yeah, and curcumin, which is turmeric, you know, that
Yeah.
bright yellow curry spice. I mean, I could do a whole talk just on curcumin. This is an amazing anti-inflammatory herb, really.
Whatever I cook, I make turmeric in it.
Yeah.
Everything you look yellow, whatever I cook.
Yellow and full of garlic, right?
Including
Interesting
when you
about
go to the washroom.
turmeric too, if you're gonna cook with it for medicinal value, include some olive oil, some black pepper, and heat it up, because all of those things increase the absorbability of curcumin, which is turmeric, in your body. Treated.
Is all inflammation the same?
No.
Okay, so an anti-inflammatory may not work on all kinds of inflammation, correct?
Well, it depends. There are different kinds of anti-inflammatories, and some of them have more specific sites of action. Curcumin, as an anti-inflammatory, is especially effective at any inflammation in the digestive system. There's a lot of research looking at curcumin for Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, but it can still help out with joint inflammation. And yet there are certain things you want to focus on for joint inflammation. So all inflammation does have the same basic mechanism of action, but yeah, it's not exactly the same.
How about bromelain?
Yeah. Bromelain, that's another possibility. It doesn't,
Not as strong.
not as
turmeric.
good as
Okay.
curcumin, yeah. Any other questions so far? Okay. Lifestyle factors. So, I was researching stress in the immune system, and I found this very interesting article that showed that the acute stress elicited by bungee jumping suppresses human innate immunity. Well, I thought that was a really great way of being able to research stress, because the thing about research is that they're always trying to isolate factors and be very scientific about it, right? And that's a challenging thing to do. And with stress, I mean, how do you test stress, right? Everyone has it. Everyone reacts differently to external stimuli. Something that really stresses me out might not be stressful to you. So this is a great way of causing actual stress. Jump off a cliff. So don't bungee jump if you want your immune system to be top notch. But also, you know, this was my funny thing, was the thing about bungee jumping. But think about ways in your own life that you can reduce stress as much as possible. Easier said than done, I know. A lot of stress that's in our lives is hard to avoid or reduce. But there are things you can do internally on your own to increase your tolerance to stress. So it can include yoga, regular exercise, breathing exercises, meditation, all sorts of things.
Multi-B vitamins.
B vitamins, yes, but you have to be careful with B vitamins. You don't want to be on them forever, because they're very, in terms of Chinese medicine, they're very yang. They're very like get up and
That's
go.
right. Yep.
And so if you have a short period of time, like a month or less, where you're get up and go, like say you're writing exams or you have a big deadline at work, sure, use those B vitamins. Then take a break. Give your body a rest from the high potency B vitamins. Yes?
Stinky thinking.
Stinky thinking.
Yeah.
What do you mean by
The
that?
way we think.
Yeah.
You know, we worry about this, we worry about that. I mean, your cells don't like that.
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting. Has anyone here ever heard of Gabor Mate? Yeah, so he's a really interesting medical doctor working out in Vancouver. And one of his books is called When the Body Says No. And I mean, he's looking at serious things like ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. He actually talks about Lou Gehrig in that book and the type of person that he was. And And so it's interesting because, yeah, we need to look at negative thinking and, complaining and thinking bad things all the time and what that does to our bodies. But we also need to look at the flip side. Because some people are like, oh, everything's good, oh, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. And then they never look at the negative. And they're always just coping without saying, you know what, that really sucked. So sometimes it's good to be able to name things and say, okay, enough is enough. I need to say no to this. I need to have boundaries. So it's complex, right? Yes, be optimistic. Be a happy person, but it's got to be genuine. And you're allowed to be crabby sometimes. And you're allowed to say no to people and to demands in your life. Because if you don't say no, your body will end up saying no through sickness.
Positive
Yes.
thinking.
That's what I mean, I said to people
Yeah.
that, in the store, I said, you have to say that, don't you? One lady said, no, I don't. She got mad. You have to say, have a nice day. Well, a lot of people, most people are genuine, but a lot of people are fake, and if you don't bring it up and get rid of it, and tell people how you feel about it and get it off your chest, that's what I mean. Get it out.
You betcha.
So you're clean every night before you go to bed.
Before offending.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, we're talking about, the emotions and mental functioning and our bodies, right? A lot of us grew up with the idea that physical illness was very separate from our thoughts and our emotions, but it's not. It's very intertwined. Chinese medicine is over 4,000 years old, and it's embedded within the theory of Chinese medicine. Every time I'm diagnosing someone from a Chinese medicine perspective, I'm looking at their physical symptoms and their emotions. The liver in Chinese medicine is very associated with anger, frustration. So it's interesting because this system of medicine will look at how grief can affect you physically. Being so sad that you can't breathe, or feeling like, you're so anxious you can feel it in your stomach. I mean, this is not all in our heads, right? This is very real. It's our bodies, our minds. It's all the same thing, really. Okay, so increasing your stress tolerance by meditating, regular exercise, deep breathing exercises, and reframing. So, some of this is getting into cognitive behavioral therapy as well. If you're really stuck in a rut with your thought patterns, see a cognitive behavioral therapist or a counselor, someone who can just mirror things back to you and help you get out of that rut, because it's worth it for your physical health and for your mental health. Sleep, very important. Now, usually when you're sick, you kind of want to go to bed. Well, that's your body's way of saying that's what you need to do. You just need to go to sleep. So in terms of preventing illness, getting a good night's sleep is very important. So circadian rhythms, that's your sleep-wake cycle. If you can go to bed at 10 or 11, that's great. Staying up really late into the night can upset the natural balance in your body. We have hormones that tell us when to go to bed, and when stress hormones are really high for a long time, that can interrupt our ability to fall asleep and to stay asleep. So, and sleeping in total darkness is important, because if there's light in your bedroom, that can interrupt your melatonin production. And melatonin is very important in helping you get to sleep. Avoiding caffeine, of course, helps you sleep. Sometimes people say, oh, it's no problem, I can, drink coffee and then go right to sleep. But then I realized that, that's not really the case. They might sort of fall asleep, but it's more of a light sleep, and they're waking up a lot, and they don't wake feeling refreshed. So no caffeine after noon as a general rule, but it depends on the person too. Exercise, like I said, is very important. But if you remember back to that diagram where we had the human body and you can see all the pathways of lymph and blood, so when you're walking or when you're exercising, your muscles are pumping, and they're actually pumping that blood in your veins back to your heart, and they're pumping the lymph, because the lymph in your body doesn't have its own pump. Blood does, our heart obviously pumps our blood throughout our body, but the muscle pump is what gets lymph moving. So exercise, very important for blood circulation, lymph circulation. it gets those cells around your body and it flushes out toxins. Yes?
Is it true vitamin D stimulates melatonin, so, or creates it or something? Like, cause I was told that you're supposed to get at least 30 minutes of sunlight a day because it stimulates melatonin production.
If you get sunlight in the morning, it decreases your melatonin so that you can wake up properly. Yeah, and so if you get one of those full spectrum UV lamps, which are really great, especially if you suffer from depression in the wintertime, known as SAD, seasonal affective disorder. Those UV lamps are great because you just sit in front of them for like 20 minutes to a half an hour every morning, and it helps the melatonin to decrease so that it can later increase. But you don't want to sit in front of those lamps at night because then you might not be able to sleep. So, and we're going to get to vitamin D, so we'll talk a bit more about that. Okay, so dressing appropriately, keeping warm actually is important. And wind gate. Anyone here ever heard of the wind gate? Is it back here? Yeah, good one, Trudy. Yeah, it's the back of the neck is the wind gate. So this is a Chinese medicine thing. And you'll see in a lot of Asian countries and European countries that people wear scarves a lot, especially when it's cold out. And so absolutely, keep the back of your neck covered. Scarves are fashionable as well. You can be fashionable and healthy at the same time, especially if you're going outside. Don't think, oh, it's really, it's +5, it's warm out, no problem, I'm just gonna run around outside. Always have a little scarf on, because there's really something to that. Okay, hydrotherapy. So there's all different things you can do for hydrotherapy. And it's really interesting because this, again, goes back to old medicine, hundreds of years ago, if not thousands of years. So here we are in Thunder Bay. Of course, you all know what a sauna is, according to the Finnish traditions. But most cultures have some kind of, whether it's a sauna or like the Roman steam baths. There's been a lot of that in almost every culture. They have them in Korea as well. And the idea too with the sauna is it's most beneficial if you get nice and hot and then you have a cold splash, because that really gets the circulation going. And we just talked about how important circulation is. Get those immune cells traveling around the body. And it's very invigorating and energizing as well. So the Nipigon nylons there in the photo. I actually did a Google search for Nipigon nylons, and I was like, what am I thinking? Google's not going to know that. And it's like, wool socks, red stripe. Okay. So warming socks. This is an interesting treatment. It's a home hydrotherapy treatment that you can try. This is the one that when naturopaths talk about it, people think we're really crazy. But it works. It's amazing. So you get a nice pair of wool socks, Nipigon nylons. They have to be 100% wool. And then you get a nice pair of 100% cotton socks. And what you do is, this is right before you go to sleep. So you take the cotton socks and you run them under the tap. So it doesn't really matter if the water's cold or warm. And you wring them out so there's no more drips. Then you bring them back to your bed. You put the wet cotton socks on. I know, wet socks, doesn't sound like fun. Put the wet cotton socks on, then put the dry wool socks over top and go to sleep. So what happens is as you're sleeping, ideally for 8 hours, nice and soundly, you're getting a hydrotherapy treatment because your feet are wet, and so your body goes, oh, feet are wet, and the water kind of evaporates a bit, it cools off, your feet get a little bit cold. So your body says, okay, warm up the feet, and it sends blood circulation down there, warms up the feet. Feet get nice and toasty warm, more water evaporates through the cotton and the wool. Has to be natural fibers. Don't try this with polyester, it won't work. So as the water evaporates, feet get cold again. Then the body goes, oh, feet are cold again, warm them up. So you're getting that hot, cold, hot, cold. It's almost like inducing a mild fever. So, and fevers are one of the body's, the immune system's way of fighting off toxins. So it's neat because at the first hint of a cold, if you can do this and tolerate it, it can really help. And it's actually, I've had personal experience with it where I thought, oh my God, that actually worked. So, And then I have a friend who's really cranky about it and says, I just don't sleep well when I have those damn socks on me, so I think my sleep's more important than that. And I said, okay, that's fine, at least you tried it. It's not for everyone.
What was the first pair of socks? What was it?
Cotton.
Cotton?
First pair of socks is cotton, and those are the ones that are wet, but wring them out, not dripping wet, they have to be wrung out. And then the second pair of socks are the old Nipigon nylons.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Can't you put a plastic bag over them to?
No, because if you put a plastic bag over them, then they won't
Then they won't
evaporate.
evaporate,
So
yeah.
don't do that,
Your
you're just
bed gets
gonna end
all
up
wet.
with damp feet. It's interesting too, because, you know, you put the socks on wet and they evaporate and do all that thing throughout the night, and they're dry in the morning, right? And your feet are dry too, and nice and warm. Contrast showers, again, only for brave people. So if you take a hot shower in the morning, turn it to cold. Blast yourself with cold water for about 20 or 30 seconds. And yes, it's tough to do, but it really wakes you up and it gets that circulation going. So all hydrotherapy is based on the hot, cold principle. Okay, steam inhalations, that's a great one. This one you don't have to be as brave for. So basically, boil the kettle, get a nice glass bowl, and you pour the boiling water in there, and you can even add some drops of eucalyptus. It's a really nice oil. And then you do a steam inhalation. So be careful, don't burn your face, make sure it's tolerable, but you can put your face over the steaming bowl, and you can even put a towel, like maybe a tent over your head, and you just breathe that in. And that can be really great, especially for upper respiratory tract infections, you know, colds and sore throats.
Why are they all going, they're going to that cold steamer thing now? Is, you know, we had a hard time trying to find one of the real steamers. That used to put water in and boils.
Oh, the vaporizers.
Yeah, you
I
can't find them
remember
anymore.
those.
All you find is the, the cool air ones, eh?
I know. No, those vaporizers were great.
No,
Yeah,
I think
we
they
found one
Put
at the
Vicks
yard sale.
Vapor Rub
Yeah.
on the top of them.
We found one at the yard sale.
Yeah, that would be the only place to find them. No, those are great for just creating some humidity and making it easier to breathe. Yeah, I remember when I was a little kid, when my brother and I were sick, and my mom would get steam going in the bathroom and just bring us in there and, you know, steam us up.
It was a standing procedure whenever we got patients coming in with trouble.
Yeah.
It was right away, the head nurse didn't have to say anything, called vaporizer.
Really?
Yeah.
I wonder if
Or
they still do that.
humidifier, let's say it that way.
I wonder if they still do that.
I don't know, but
Oh,
I know
that's-
a friend of mine bought one, a cold one, in Walmart. And there's even
So-
a timer on it,
Right.
so you
And,
don't.
you know, you can get humidifiers for sure, but
Yeah,
it's
but
interesting
it's
because
the vapor-
hydrotherapy.
The vaporizer is, the cold air, vaporizer is really what seems to do it.
Right.
The hot one create more breeding of bacteria, whatever you have in you.
Well, hot can work, cold can work,
Mhm.
but the trick to hydrotherapy is the alternating
Yeah.
hot and cold. That's really important. Any other questions on hydrotherapy before we move into herbs? Okay. So, herbal medicine. There are all different ways that you can consume plants as medicine. Tinctures are one way, so that's an alcohol extraction. You can buy those at health food stores. We custom compound tinctures for our patients depending on what their needs are. Decoctions, so that's where you actually have boiling water and then you simmer it, and you simmer it for a long time. So soups are an example of a decoction. And you need to decoct roots, bark, any really hard part of a plant needs to be decocted. You can't just make like a tea with it. So that would be an infusion, a tea, right? So leaves, flowers, that kind of thing. You can just do a tea with that. Inhalation, we just talked about that. And then you can apply herbs topically as well. You can have a poultice. Has anyone heard of like the potato poultice on like the ear? Can be used to draw things out. You can apply herbs topically in an ointment or a salve as well. So there's lots of different ways to use herbs. So, change of season soup. I told you I would let you know about this. And so if anyone's curious after, you want to check out what the herbs look like, actually I'll just pass this around, you can all look at it. This is change of season soup. So it's got some herbs in there that are immune boosting herbs. And this is traditionally done in Chinese medicine. You'll brew up a big batch of this soup when the seasons change, obviously. That's how it got its name. And you know, that's when people tend to get sick a lot, right? When fall turns into winter and right when winter's turning into spring. So we're getting to that time when you might want to get some change of season soup. Okay. Astragalus. Who here has heard of astragalus?
How, just going back to the soup, how often would you have that? Just for-
Well, I mean, you don't need to eat it all winter long. I suppose you could if you really wanted to be doing some deep tonifying. I would be careful with that though, because they are herbs, and if you're doing it for like a month straight, you want to make sure you're not over tonifying yourself. Because in Chinese medicine, everything's a balance, right? So for example, when I prescribe tonifying herbs to a patient, I have to make sure that I'm also moving the energy in their body, moving qi, because otherwise things can get stuck, you can get stagnation, aches, pains, buildup of stuff. So I would say make yourself a big pot of change of season soup, and then eat it throughout the week. You can freeze some too and have one, you know, a portion the week after. Don't go too crazy with it, basically. But twice a year is what's traditionally done. A big batch in the fall and a big batch in the spring. Okay, so astragalus is an amazing herb. A lot of people take echinacea preventatively, but actually this is the one that's best taken preventatively. So it's got over 2,000 years of use because it's a Chinese herb. So it's a deep immune activator, it's an immune enhancer, and it's an immunomodulator. So when I say modulate, I mean it balances things. So sometimes it can actually, and I don't want you to go out taking this if you have an autoimmune condition, but in certain autoimmune conditions, it can help balance the immune system as well. You have to be careful because, you know, with autoimmune conditions, you really have to know what you're doing with herbs, but that's what I mean when I say modulate, right? It's about balancing. This is a lot of botanical medicine language that doesn't really matter, but basically it increases your immune response. So it can also help with increasing red blood cell production, increases effectiveness of chemotherapy, so it can be useful in cancer as well. And stimulating adrenocortical activity. Basically what that means is it increases your tolerance to stress. Antibacterial, antiviral, and hepatoprotective means that it protects your liver. And cardioprotective, obviously that's your heart, right? Protects your heart. And hypoglycemic means it helps balance your blood sugar. So plants are amazing because they have so many different constituents and they can do so many things depending on what's going on in our bodies. And as humans, we've lived with plants since the beginning of time, and so we've evolved with them, and they're there to help us when we need them. Echinacea, we all know about echinacea. It stimulates the immune system, anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, bacterial, viral, protozoal. It's great, for sure.
Doesn't it up your blood pressure?
Your what?
Doesn't it elevate your blood pressure?
No, that's licorice. Yeah, if you're taking licorice as a herb, it
Yeah.
can elevate blood pressure
That's what it was.
unless you get deglycerized
Yeah.
licorice. So, yeah, I think I have maybe a quick note about licorice in here, but that is a safety concern. Licorice is the one
Yeah,
that you
I
have to
know
be
that,
careful
but
with
that's all
if you have high blood pressure.
Is that like regular licorice or just, you know, stuff you buy in the
Like
stores?
licorice candy?
Yeah.
No, licorice candy not
That's
so much,
junk.
that's just sugar, and it has that like
Artificial
licoricey
flavor.
flavor. But
Artificial
actual
soup.
licorice herb, yeah, that was a good question though.
It's a root.
Yeah. Okay, so, Cochrane Review. So in terms of research that's out there, the Cochrane Review is like the most gold of gold standard research. If Cochrane Review says that this thing might work, then you know for sure it does, because they're very strict. So they looked into a lot of different research that's been done on echinacea and found that, yeah, it can actually decrease the duration of a cold
Where
or
are they out
decrease
of?
the severity of symptoms.
Where are they out of?
Cochrane, it's Canadian, I think.
Canadian root.
Trying to think.
Cochrane, Alberta. No, I'm just kidding.
Nice
That
place.
would make sense. Yeah. No, that's a good question. I think it's Canadian
It
or.
is Canadian.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. All right, so echinacea, we all know about that. And it's interesting because herbs have different energetic properties as well. And so echinacea energetically is about boundaries. So if you're having trouble with boundaries in your life, echinacea is a good one. And of course that makes sense because the immune system is all about boundaries too. It's about the difference of like what is out there, what is me, and what's allowed in and what's not. So,
What part of the plant do they use of the echinacea plant to,
usually the root.
it's the root?
Yeah.
So the upper part of the flower has no value really, or?
Not as much, no. I mean, you might get some value, like some energetic value, but the actual constituents are in the roots.
How do they get it out of the root? Do they,
All sorts of different ways, yeah. I mean, you can like grow purple coneflower yourself and boil up the roots, absolutely. You don't know exactly what dose you're getting with that, but, you know, as long as you're not overdoing it and you're not on different medications that might interact, then it's pretty safe.
the reason I ask all these stupid questions is so.
They're not stupid.
No, but because people don't know. They think, well, huh, there's that flower. I heard about it. Well, let's just eat those flowers. You know?
Yeah,
You know,
Pretty good, yeah.
or licorice, you know, that's why I
Well,
asked the
the
licorice
thing-
question too, because
Absolutely.
people are thinking licorice. Well, I better not eat licorice no more in the store, right?
yeah.
And no more
Well,
than.
maybe they won't eat licorice because of my piece
Sugar,
on sugar, as opposed to nothing on herbs.
And isn't it with echinacea that when you take it 10 days on and then at least 10 days off, not constant, like some people.
Yeah, don't take echinacea constantly.
No,
No.
because it attacks your own immune system.
I don't know if it attacks your own immune system. I think it just can, you know, not be as effective
Yeah.
when you really need it. So astragalus is the one that you might want to take throughout the cold and flu season, but don't take astragalus all year round either. So you don't really want to take any of these herbs constantly. So okay, so Eleutherococcus centicosus is another amazing herb, Siberian ginseng, and it's great for being under any kind of big stress. So I've got a whole bunch of things it's good for there, like weakness, chemotherapy, prolonged stress, chronic inflammatory conditions, hypertension or hypotension, so that's high or low blood pressure. And I know that sounds kind of contradictory, but you have to remember, herbs are very different than drugs, right? Drugs are like one little constituent that's doing one specific thing physiologically, very targeted. Herbs can be very balancing, especially the adaptogen herbs. So that's kind of what adaptogen means, is it helps you adapt to stress. So I took a lot of this in naturopathic college and it helped get me through. Okay, so, yes.
Can you describe the difference between the benefits of Siberian ginseng versus other types of ginseng?
Well, there are many different types of ginseng. I think I might have another one here. No. So ginsengs can be very warming. You have to be careful with them. A Panax ginseng, for example, is very yang, a lot of warming energy. So it's great if you're the right person to receive that, but it's pretty specific. Eleutherococcus is nice because it's not one of the warmer ginsengs. It's one that's milder. But all of the ginsengs help with stress and can give you energy. But sometimes people who take too much ginseng for too long, actually, it's again about balance, right? So if we're looking at yin and yang in the body, ginseng is very yang. You take it for a long time and you burn yourself out. You've got no more yin left, right? Yang is that get up and go energy, that fire, running around, being busy. Yin is like, it's cooling, it's calm, it's nighttime, it's rest, it's taking it easy. We all need a balance of yin and yang in our lives. And herbs have yin properties, yang properties. So you don't want to overdo it with the yang tonics. Okay, so Ganoderma lucidum, otherwise known as reishi mushroom. Who's heard of reishi mushroom? I think they might even grow around here. I swear I was out in the woods a couple years ago and saw one.
Cool.
Tanis?
They actually, at one time, there was a woman that not lived on Bay Street, but had a business there, and she actually would serve reishi mushroom in the form of coffee.
Oh yeah, she's still
or
there.
hot chocolate.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting feeling after.
Yeah, that's at Health for You.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's an amazing herb. I have mixed feelings about it being added to coffee.
Okay.
I mean, hey, if you're gonna drink coffee in the morning anyway, might as well throw some reishi mushroom in there. But if you can get your reishi mushroom in another form, not in coffee, even better.
Mix it in your omelet.
Yeah. So it's amazing too when you actually see this mushroom, because I've been in some herb shops in Toronto and Ottawa, and they're just these, they're almost like rock hard, and they're huge, and you can see black ones and red ones, and they've got rings on them, and they're just amazing. They're full of these constituents that are anti-cancer, they protect your liver, strengthen your red blood cell membranes, help you with stress, and known historically as the elixir of immortality. So, pretty cool mushroom. There are a lot of amazing mushrooms out there, but there are a lot of poisonous ones too, so don't go eating random mushrooms. And then tell people that the naturopath made you do it.
That's the one.
Oh, there is a slide on licorice. There you go.
I love it, but they have to watch it.
You love it?
Oh,
Oh, I know a lot of people who
We used
love
to
their
have
licorice roots.
licorice sticks, or by roots, you call them here.
Yeah, and you can boil them up and make your own
No,
licorice
you just brush
decoction.
them off lengthwise and you chew on them.
That's another way to
But
do it.
spit out the wood when you go to your mouth, don't
Yeah.
swallow it.
Don't swallow the wood, because it's very tough. But yeah, you
Helped
can
my
chew on it.
pneumonia.
No
Because
toothpicks
I
out.
was on double lung, what do you call it, pneumonia.
Yeah.
And I got all kinds of antibiotics, didn't react on them, and all of a sudden something clicked up here. Hey, grandma used to take that. She'd chew on that stick.
Yeah.
I did it every about 3 hours, and you can't cut it this way, you have to split it,
Did
you know.
you tell your
And chew
doctor?
it, and then for about an hour, and then spit it out, and every 3-4 hours I did that over a day and a half,
Yeah.
and all the stuff came loose, bye-bye pneumonia.
Well, you know why is because, so if anyone didn't hear, basically chewing on licorice bark cured her pneumonia. It's a demulcent, so it
Yeah.
soothes the throat, soothes the digestive tract. That's why I often prescribe it for reflux. But I usually prescribe the deglycerized licorice,
Oh.
especially if someone has high blood pressure.
Yeah.
And so there are ways of extracting that from it. And it's antiviral, helps with your immune system. It's an amazing herb. Licorice is one of those herbs that's like very all-purpose. And also in terms of Chinese medicine, we're looking at meridians throughout the body, right? Meridians of energy. And licorice is one of the herbs that is known to be able to get into all 12 meridians. So it's used often in Chinese herbal formulas as a guiding herb. So it'll help guide the other herbs into those meridians. I know, I'm getting far out here, but it's pretty cool stuff. There are many more herbs. I mean, I could talk until midnight about herbs. So these are just a list of some of the other herbs that are out there. Ashwagandha, you may have heard of that one. Schisandra, and then some of the other ginsengs as well. American ginseng, Panax ginseng, Ligustrum lucidum. Codonopsis is one of the ones in Change of Season soup. So I know the Change of Season soup is going around. Codonopsis is in there. And lots of other things.
Where can you buy that formula?
Change of Season soup. In Thunder Bay, there are not too many places to buy it. So you can come to our clinic and buy it from us, but our board that regulates us as naturopathic doctors does require that we only sell supplements to our patients because they don't want our clinics turning into health food stores. So our patients can buy it from us, but if you're not a patient of ours, you should become one. But also, you can go to Kelly's and get St. Francis Farms is a really great company in Ontario. They make some really amazing herbal formulas. So you can look for Astragalus Combo, Deep Immune Activation by St. Francis Farms in tincture form. and it has a lot of the same herbs that are in change of season soup. It's not exactly the same, but it's close. Okay, so oregano oil. Who here uses oregano oil? Yeah, so it can be very effective. You can do 2 to 3 drops in water twice per day with oregano oil.
Not with the
Okay.
strong stuff,
What's that?
not with the strong stuff.
Not with
The
the,
strong stuff, like you give it to a lady that says, oh, I use oregano oil. So I says, okay, I'll give you one drop, I bet you can't handle that. Well, we just about lost it.
oregano oil can be very strong.
Very strong and it burns.
Yeah,
One drop in a little water like that, about half a glass.
yeah.
What
I mean,
does
you do
it,
have to be careful with it.
what
for
does
sure.
it do, the oregano oil?
Well, it's antimicrobial, so it fights bacteria, viruses, that kind of thing.
So you'd be taking that for a cold or
Yeah.
flu or something?
Only one drop at a time,
Yeah.
and it tastes yuck.
Let's mix it into something.
Okay, so probiotics. I think I mentioned these in passing already. So again, the digestive system is a very important part of the immune system. And we have bacteria in our digestive systems. We're supposed to, and it's there to help us. And it even can do things like create vitamin K for us to use. So every time you have antibiotics, it wipes out the infectious bacteria and the helpful bacteria that are meant to be there. So taking probiotics can help you ward off infection. Tennis?
Wasn't there some kind of controversy about probiotics? Was there kind of like an intentional rumor about how it's all fake or whatever? Did you hear anything
No.
about that?
That's fascinating though, because, you know, even medical doctors are prescribing probiotics now because the evidence is overwhelming.
Wow.
Yeah,
Some
so,
medical doctors.
I mean, you never know, there's always stuff going
I
around.
heard a little bit of like something about it's a hoax or it's a gimmick to sell the product, but I didn't.
Yeah, well, if someone wants to say a product is a gimmick, this isn't a good one to go after because there's tons of research on it. Yeah, so again, you know how I was talking about Cochrane Review and how it's like the most gold of gold standard research? So even they say that, yeah, okay, it can be helpful with acute upper respiratory tract infections. That's what that stands for. So it can reduce how many colds you get and also can reduce antibiotic use.
Increase your immune system.
Yeah, absolutely. And the interesting thing about probiotics is I still feel like I'm learning about them because there are many different strains of probiotics and different strains can be used for different things too. It's nice to have a good general probiotic to take to boost your immune system. But for example, there's one called Saccharomyces boulardii, and this one specifically can help cure C. difficile. So you hear a lot about hospitals and C. difficile, horrible diarrhea, and that C. difficile arises when there's been too much antibiotic use, right? And then they're like, oh, what can we use now? So Saccharomyces boulardii has been used effectively with C. difficile. So it's really interesting. There's a lot more research coming out on probiotics and different formulations and yeah, Tennis?
Sorry, just a quick question. What about it inside food? Is it okay? You know how it advertises
In yogurt?
sometimes? Yeah, yogurt.
Yeah, that's fine if you can eat yogurt. Not everyone can.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you're trying to if you're trying to replenish your system after taking antibiotics, I would probably recommend taking it in capsule form because you get many billion molecules of the probiotics. So it's a way bigger dose than what you can get from yogurt. But I mean, eating yogurt as part of your regular diet, if you can tolerate dairy, is great. Absolutely. Yeah.
You watch yogurts that have sugar in them.
Well, yeah, because a lot of those yogurts have sugar in them, but
we
you can
had,
get plain organic stuff.
We had a fellow here a little while back and mentioned that with your growth in your gut of the bacteria and stuff, that they produce 90% of all the brain chemicals that run your brain. So it's very important to have a healthy gut.
Absolutely. It's interesting in terms of brain chemicals and your gut too, because serotonin is a very important neurotransmitter in your brain. And they used to think that it was just in your brain, but now they know there are serotonin receptors throughout the entire gut. So when people are, so sad that they can't eat, in depression, that makes sense, right? Serotonin, it affects your digestion as well as your mental functioning and your mood. Yes?
So probiotics, that's like acidophilus bifidus?
Yeah,
Yeah.
acidophilus is one example.
And the other one is whatever.
Yeah, bifidum, I mean, there
Yeah,
are many
that's it.
different strains.
Yeah.
Yes.
I had acidophilus and I didn't realize I was supposed to refrigerate it, it was just in the capsules. But is it completely, like, it's no good anymore if I didn't refrigerate it, or is it just?
How long has it been out of the refrigerator?
Pardon me?
How long has it been out of the refrigerator?
4 months.
No,
So it's no good.
probably not that, I mean, there might be like a little bit left, but to get what it says on the label, yeah, you have to refrigerate them.
And
There are some companies that make heat-resistant probiotics.
Yeah, pearl,
So, yeah, it depends on,
the little pearl.
yes.
What are your thoughts on probiotic drinks like water pepper, Naturopathic, and kombucha?
Yeah, there are probiotics in a lot
So are
of those
they
drinks
equal
too.
to, like, if I take acidophilus, are they equal? Like, if you have a glass of it?
Not necessarily, the dose wouldn't be the same. And I'm not actually sure of what the dose of probiotics would be in kombucha tea. And it probably varies from cup to cup or batch to batch. So, I mean, it's fine. It's like, chewing on a piece of licorice instead of taking a capsule that has a standardized dose. You don't always have to take a standardized dose. You can go boil up your own herbs or make your own kombucha tea, that's fine. But when you're using it clinically, like when I have a patient who comes in and they've just come off a couple of rounds of antibiotics, I'm not gonna tell them to eat yogurt. I'm gonna prescribe them probiotics that have been in the fridge. I'm gonna tell them to keep it in the fridge, just so I know they're getting what they need.
And it still takes about 3 months before your immune system comes back up.
It depends on the person. Some people's immune systems come back faster, some people might be longer than 3
But when you're
months.
almost 84, it takes a long time.
That makes sense, absolutely, yes.
I was just gonna comment that the medical community seems to be embracing that and has been for quite some time.
Yeah.
When I was a young woman of 19, my family doctor prescribed plain yogurt for a condition.
No
And
sugar
I was
added.
quite impressed that she did. I also was successful in getting my mom's cardiologist to give her probiotics when she underwent went up a heart bypass about 9-10 years ago. So the cardiologist did concede to my request to have her on probiotics while she was in the hospital.
Well, and that was a situation where you requested it, and a lot of times people go in to see their medical doctors and don't know anything about probiotics and leave with free samples of probiotics now. So things are changing, it's great. I mean, it makes sense, right? Medical doctors work from evidence-based medicine, so it's science, right? And there's tons of science, tons of research behind probiotics, so it makes sense that medical doctors are getting on board. And I think it's good for all of us, it's good for our hospitals as well, because, we hear a lot about antibiotic-resistant infections, and, I mean, that's scary stuff, right? So I think probiotics are one of the ways that we can fight that.
But they don't
antibiotic
make money
resistance.
on that probiotic.
What's that?
Doctors don't make money, nor the pharmacies on probiotics.
Well, the pharmaceutical companies don't necessarily, but some of the
We'll figure it out.
pharmaceutical companies are now trying to buy out the nutraceutical companies,
Uh-huh.
because they know
Yeah.
that that's getting more popular. But there's always someone trying to make money off of something,
Oh,
so
yeah.
not much you can do about that. Okay, any other questions about probiotics before we move on? Okay. So vitamins and minerals. We all know about vitamin C for the immune system. You can get most of what you need from fruits and vegetables. Supplementing with vitamin C is fine, but beware of diarrhea. So basically, taking a lot of vitamin C in supplement form will give you the runs. And you can take it up to that point and then bring your dose back so that your bowel movements are normal again, and you can use that high dose while you're fighting off a cold, that's fine. And bowel tolerance is different for everyone. I might be able to ingest, 4 grams of vitamin C, and my friend might be able to get up to 8 grams. So it's individual. Just know that that's a side effect. Zinc is very important for immune function. It can be found in sesame seeds, pumpkin seeds, oysters, peanuts, and you can also get it in a lot of multivitamins or
Some
in
people
a,
mix vitamin C and zinc.
Yep, absolutely, there's a lot of companies that have vitamin C and zinc. Don't take really high dose zinc for a long time because it can deplete copper, and copper is an important micronutrient.
And vitamin C doesn't it need a lot more than just vitamin C for proper absorption, like quercetin and bioflavonoids and
Well,
all
that's
those
why it's
Latin-
better to get it from your fruits and vegetables, your vitamin C, because there's all
How
those
long
other
have they been
constituents.
en route, you never know how much is in it,
Yeah, exactly,
the way they're grown and all the stuff that they put on it.
yeah. But, you know, I always say eating fruits and vegetables is better than avoiding them. People get worried about pesticides and things being genetically modified, and those are all very important concerns. But if you're not eating fruits and vegetables because of those concerns, you're not doing yourself a favor. You're better off to just eat fruits and vegetables even if they're not organic, because they still have a lot of nutrients for you. Vitamin D, very important. Vitamin D deficiency is the norm in Canada. Most of us are deficient unless we've been supplementing. So most of my patients are on 2,000 IU a day in the winter. Pretty important. So it's good for bone health and it's good for mood regulation as well. Yes?
What's the difference between an IU and a milligram? Like, international
IU
unit
stands
is
for
a very
international
small
units.
part of a-
Yeah, I mean, it's just the way they measure different vitamins. So I think it's smaller than a milligram, but I'm
Very
not sure
small,
what the
yeah.
equivalency
So it's
is.
a very small amount.
Yeah, well, and you get 1,000 IU in like one drop
Oh, yeah.
of the vitamin D that we carry.
Ah.
So yeah, so it's pretty easy to get in supplement form.
Is it
And
in
then-
cod liver oil?
Yeah, it's in cod liver oil, but not other kinds of fish oil. So you always have
Oh,
to
really?
read the label and see what you're
Well,
getting.
Grandma used to give us the cod liver oil, it was horrible, but
It's good for you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
no,
good
cod
for
liver
you.
oil had all those omega-3 fatty acids you need, plus vitamin D and vitamin A.
The old cod liver oil, yeah, but nowadays it's very polluted. It's best to get the fish oil from small fish, like krill even, but that,
Yeah.
you know. and
Yeah,
oil.
anchovies. and-
Anchovies
Yeah.
and sardine,
Mhm.
better nowadays than that you get it from cod.
And fish oil is interesting because it's good for so many things. It's a natural anti-inflammatory.
Cholesterol.
I don't have it in my immune system talk because it fits in better with other things, but fish oil is pretty important. Okay. So, any questions? Yes?
Just on the zinc, going back to that, sometimes in higher doses it can cause upset stomachs. What do
You gotta
suggest
take it with food.
with food?
Yeah.
Okay. Better with vegetables.
Absolutely.
gotta eat that stuff with food.
A friend of mine told me about, I don't know, kombucha or kombucha tea or something?
Yes, which is what she was just talking about.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear. And is that, what are the benefits of that?
Well, it's a fermented product, so it's got some natural probiotics in it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know tons about it. Maybe you could even tell us more about it.
You have a culture? You make your
Yeah,
own with a culture?
It's a culture. I don't make my own. I make my own water pepper and I make my own girock, but it's a culture. I think it's, some people call it a mushroom, but it's a bacterial culture and
Yeah, I
I don't
used
make
to-
myself, but I think you just it's a tea and you put the culture in there and it ferments.
Yeah, and it grows thick on top. It almost looks, if you take it apart, I used to make the tea. There
Yeah.
was a science teacher that did a whole presentation on it here one time many years ago. And it grows thicker and thicker. First of all, it grows like a little pad, and then it grows real thick, and it's white. And almost, you could take it out and you cut it, it's almost like a fish fillet. You don't eat it, you just drink the
Right.
tea. But, yeah.
It's basically a growing organism.
Yeah, he was just so amazed with this, and this was a science teacher that was heavy into this stuff too. And
Yeah, well, it's pretty cool. You know, you can grow your own. And I had friends in Ottawa who were making their own kombucha tea, and then they were posting on Facebook like, does anyone want some kombucha tea? Because that's the thing, you grow it, it's a culture. You can share it with your friends, they can grow their own kombucha tea, and then, then we all have kombucha.
Free.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
should do that, and get used to sharing that. Pretty soon we can all be of one mind and quit going to the doctor.
Kombucha for enlightenment, there you go.
If I can avoid
Trudy,
it.
I had tried stevia with Chrome, and it hit my stomach like
Stevia with chrome?
Yeah, because I have a tendency to diabetes and, you know,
Chromium.
sugars that.
Chromium,
Yeah,
yeah.
sorry,
Oh, okay,
chromium,
okay,
yeah,
yeah.
you're right. So tell me about chromium, why did it do that?
I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
Chromium is important for regulating blood sugar.
Mhm.
And, you know, this is why I love naturopathic medicine, is it's very individual. So chromium might be fine for most of the people in this room, but for you, you were intolerant to it. And, I mean, it was probably a very small amount too, because when I prescribe chromium, I'm prescribing usually 200 micrograms per day. It's a very small amount. But you never know, I mean, some people throw up when they take B vitamins, right? So there's always individual reactions that can happen with any herb and any vitamin.
So there, oh, just let me wrap this up. So there's an herb that's good also for regulating blood sugar. And
Gymnema or bitter melon?
what was the first one you said?
Gymnema,
No, it's not that one.
yeah.
It begins with a V? Anyway, so would that particular herb be high in chromium? Is that why?
Not necessarily.
Oh, okay.
Not necessarily.
All right.
Yeah, I would have to look up the monograph for the herb and then I could tell you.
And I have to remember the herb.
Yeah, so you have your homework and then you give me my homework. Okay, sounds
Does
good.
chromium stimulate the pancreas?
It helps with the insulin's sensitivity, so it helps the insulin do its job in terms of getting glucose into the cells in the body. So, and you get chromium in your food, but some people don't get enough or aren't eating the right foods, so you can take it in a
But
supplement
if you're
form.
not getting enough, producing enough insulin in the first place, it may not.
If you
be
have
that
type 1
effective.
diabetes and your pancreas is not producing any insulin, chromium probably won't help you. Yeah. At the back?
Yeah, I was wondering, it's kind of a little bit off topic, but for food sensitivities, I have a food sensitivity to eggs, and I'm thinking I might have one to dairy. Is it more likely because I have a food sensitivity, are they linked at all? If I have one to eggs and I
Not
have to dairy?
necessarily, but that said, sometimes when you have a food sensitivity to one food and you've been eating it for years because you just didn't know, your immune system and your digestive system can start reacting to other foods as well. So, yeah, that can happen, so, yes.
I know one fellow many years ago, he developed almost like Alzheimer's and he was really getting bad real fast. And I kept pushing his wife, I pushed a whole bunch of information on her about B12. Finally, they pulled his driver's license, they diagnosed him with Alzheimer's, and then they gave him B12 shots. And he came back basically to normal. But he never got his license back again, you know, like,
Yeah.
yeah. But
Well,
they say
B12
that,
is an amazing vitamin.
they
and
said
I-
the deficiency can cause almost like Alzheimer's and bad brain damage. That's what it was saying in the book as far as what I
Yeah,
was reading up on.
that can happen for sure. I mean, vitamin B12 deficiency can cause depression, anxiety, cognitive
Fatigue.
decline, peripheral neuropathy, like numbness and tingling in limbs,
Don't forget fatigue.
on and on. Fatigue, absolutely. So, I mean, yeah, I know people whose depression was cured by B12 shots. So I usually try it with my patients who have depression. Not everyone responds to it because not everyone's depression is due to a B12 deficiency. But hey, for like $10 for a B12 shot, might as well try it, right?
Yeah.
It's
They
a
were-
water-soluble vitamin, it's not gonna hurt you, you're
But-
just gonna pee it out if you don't need it.
They were
so.
saying it's hard to get it in vitamin form, it doesn't absorb properly or something?
Well,
No,
OHIP only
it's very
covers
effective.
a form of vitamin B12 called cyanocobalamin. And so that form is about 20% absorbed.
Make it-
But we order in methylcobalamin, so methylcobalamin and hydroxycobalamin are the ones that are about 80% absorbed. So they work better, that's why we order them. Again, one of the benefits of being outside of the OHIP system is we can order what we want.
Smell.
Yeah, yes,
I think you mentioned about the B vitamins, don't take them all the time.
yeah.
What about a multivitamin then? Should you not take a multivitamin all the time?
It depends on how high it is in B vitamins. I think it's always nice to give your system a break, you know? Be on multivitamins for 6 months if you're going through a stressful time. But then, if you can get as many vitamins and minerals from your food as possible, that's the best thing. You know, organic, high quality, local fruits and vegetables, brown rice, quinoa, whole grains, and you should be able to get most of your nutrients from that. That said, not everyone is digesting things properly and breaking foods down, so you need to have optimal digestion to be able to get your required nutrients from food.
And before you take a B12, then it's best to ask for blood test. The blood test for, shows
You
when
can
you
do
are
it, yeah, you can do a
nutrition.
serum B12
Yeah.
blood test.
I always do that.
Yeah, it's nice to have those
You have
numbers.
to ask for it too.
Yeah, yeah. We don't run them all the time, and your medical doctor won't run a serum B12 unless
Unless
either you
for it.
ask for it or they're looking for reasons why you
Yeah.
might be tired and depressed. So, yes.
Yeah, I wanted to take a multivitamin for a while, but I really don't know where to start, and there's so many of them.
Yeah.
Can you maybe recommend a few brands or where to start, or, I mean, I know it's different for men and women at different ages, but like,
Yeah.
are there,
Well, it depends. Not everyone needs to take a multivitamin. We carry one in our clinic by a company called NFH, Natural Health Fundamentals. And we like their products because they're very absorbable and everything is research-based that they have. It's a professional brand, so you can't buy it at the store, unfortunately. The ones at the store, Sisu brand is generally a good one. I usually trust them.
What do you think about the Swiss one?
Swiss are okay.
But you have to watch because some of them got iron in it.
Well, yeah, because not everyone needs iron.
That's right.
So, yeah.
What about
Don't take iron long term without getting your iron levels checked.
AOR or Roots?
What's that?
AOR?
AOR is a great brand,
AOR
absolutely.
Roots.
You can get AOR at Jensen's and in Nutrition House in
New
the mall.
Roots.
New Roots is a good brand as well.
I love
Stay
them.
away from the brands that are like no-name brands, Centrum, stuff like that. The really
Filler.
cheap ones, often, yeah, they're full of fillers for the most part. That said, there are certain vitamins you can kind of go cheap on, as long as you don't need them for your mental sanity. If you're just supplementing for optimal health, you can sometimes get away with, getting some cheap CoQ10 or some cheap vitamin D. But it's good to alternate too. Make sure you're getting some quality brands in there some of the time. Tennis?
What do you think about chlorophyll as a good supplement to take? Like it
Green
provides,
What?
Green
in a
supplements.
hospitable environment for viruses that are depleted of oxygen, right? So it adds oxygen, doesn't it?
Chlorophyll, the function of chlorophyll in a plant is the same as iron or hemoglobin in our bodies. So it helps the plant circulate its own nutrients, just like the iron and hemoglobin in blood helps us circulate our oxygen. And so we can benefit from chlorophyll as well, and it helps us to get our iron levels up and get our energy level up. So, I mean, chlorophyll is a good thing to take, for sure. My thing though is that there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of stuff on the internet and magazine articles, and people get really excited and they're like, oh, I should be taking chlorophyll and I should be taking this and that. So sometimes when people come in to see me, they give me their list of supplements and I'm actually taking them off of certain supplements because I don't want people to be wasting their money and I don't want them to be taking things they don't need to be taking, right? So I think vitamin D is a good one for everyone to take. I think usually fish oil is good for everyone, but if you notice easy bruising, back off on the fish oil because it can thin the blood. Multivitamins, not for everyone either. If you've ever been a smoker or if you're a smoker now, don't take a multivitamin with beta carotene in it. Because there's research that has shown increased risk of cardiovascular accidents, strokes, and heart attacks. So, no beta carotene for smokers or ex-smokers. Yes?
When you say D, you mean D3?
Yes, I mean D3. Thank you for clarifying.
And Dr. McCullough mentioned that I'm coming in with my emails, that every 85, every pound of body weight is 85 international units of vitamin D3. So,
Every pound
yeah.
requires 85? Well, it's tough to say with vitamin D doses because it used to be that the recommended daily dose was 400 international units. And now they're saying, wait a minute, that's not nearly high enough. So
That's what
some of
they
the
say.
research is now saying, okay, you need to do at least
4,000.
2,000. Some naturopathic doctors prescribe 4,000 with no problem. There's research that's been done on 40,000 IUs a day of vitamin D. I don't recommend that. Don't try that in your spare time. It's just interesting that research is being done at very high
It's
doses.
supposed to prevent colds and I don't know what else.
Yeah. Any other questions before we wrap up?
Comment on, apparently, the body can be acidic or alkaline depending on the food you eat and all the rest.
Yeah.
If your body is on the alkaline side, you don't get sick as often, but if your body's on the acidic side, you get sick more often. Comment on that?
As a general rule, but the thing is about pH. Different parts of our bodies are more acidic or basic, depending on what part of the body we're talking about. But in terms of having a more alkaline forming diet, you're looking at like fruits, vegetables, whole grains.
Yeah.
That's more of an alkaline diet. More acidic diet is like meat,
Yeah.
coffee, that kind of thing. So basically, I wouldn't worry about running out and getting pH litmus tests, strips, and worrying about your pH. Just eat fruits and vegetables.
Well, you can get a whole set of
Yeah.
what to eat and not to eat in the computer.
But rule of thumb is that, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, protein,
Lemon?
Yes.
I wanted to know about CoQ10. I've been taking it since 2000
Yeah.
regularly.
For cardiovascular health?
Yes, I take Strauss heart drops and the CoQ10.
CoQ10 is one that many people are on long term.
I just wanted to know if that was okay to be on long term.
Yeah.
That's
no.
a long time that I've been on it.
Yeah. That one should be fine.
Whenever you're on what you call it, doctor's pills, and Dr. Lai even, when they have heart problems and they get the statin pills, he even suggests to take Q10 with it.
Yeah, because statin medications deplete your CoQ10. So same thing with any of my patients.
it
If
does
you're on a
something.
statin medication, you take CoQ10. So, Phil, you have a
There's a
question?
very big sign over at Intercity, and it's quite interesting. It's, I think, sponsored by the Health Unit and Eco Superior.
Okay.
And it says, avoid antibacterial soaps. And it's right outside Bath and Body Works and everything, and Lush. I'm not sure if they're involved in
Yeah.
that or not. Anyway, I was just wondering, what is the reason for avoiding those? Because most of the soaps in
Yeah.
there are antibacterial, and I'm just wondering.
Well, the idea there is, remember how we were talking about like the natural flora and bacteria that's on our bodies? And we even talked about like lysozymes in our tears and sweat, that it's our body's natural way of fighting bacteria. So the idea is that don't wash your hands with antibacterial soap because it's getting rid of your natural good bacteria. So you can still wash your hands with soap, just don't use the antibacterial soap.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good.
Okay, so we should wrap up. I've got a piece of paper here where you can write down your name and your email address, or if you don't have an email address, put your phone number down. We're going to be starting a newsletter, and that way I can let you know about other talks we're doing in the community and any events coming up at the clinic. And I've got some free samples here too, so if you want some ascorbates, that's vitamin C, some multivitamins, CalMag, Astragalus, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you very much.